What?
Well, good morning, gentlemen. And just a reminder that you may want to mute yourselves so that you're not on this forever call. As you know, that my video is pinned, so I'm the only one being seen here, even though you're all still on the call. And so it's so good to have 24, 25 of you here on the call with me today. And a ton of great questions. Just really, really impressed. And of course, these questions, they come from the other groups as well, the Tuesday night group, and they come from the Thursday night group. And pretty soon there'll be another Tuesday morning group starting based out of Chilliwack. So I'm just going to go question after question. And the beautiful thing about these questions is because guys are getting a specific drink about what they need. Currie, can you answer this? And then I give them the drink. I give them basically a minute of my thoughts on these questions. And remember, the only dumb question is the one not asked. That's why we're here. We're here to help you and answer your questions as best we can. And I don't want to answer these as if I'm the only one who has an answer. But at this point here, I will give you my best on the questions that follow. And we're going to go through one after another because there's a good list of them here, and I'll do my best. In no particular order, and if you gave me 2 or 3 questions, I mixed them around so your questions won't all be in a row. So it feels a little more random, and so keep that in mind as well. Yeah, the first question has to do with the question was, what's the best way to help your wife when she is triggered? And I happy to answer that for you. And just also say that I have written specifically about this. And if the person who asked this question does not have this document, I'm going to put it in the chat right now, but just make sure that you avail yourself of what's there, because it is, come on. All right, well, I may put it in the chat later. It's not cooperating me, and I don't want to waste our time. I want to get to questions. And so, yeah, but the answers with regard to triggers are these. The most important thing is you've got to take responsibility, no matter how crazy it feels that she's being triggered by the coffee mug or something. Like you know, she wouldn't have any triggers by and large if you hadn't treated her with unfaithfulness. And so respond to her triggers. It has to be about her, first of all. It can't be about you. Well, you know how hard I've worked. Don't go there. Tell them I'm really sorry. Talk to me. How is this triggering you? Let me understand. Be patient. When you get impatient, that's all about you again. Listen, don't talk. When you talk, it's all about you again. Empathy is a hard thing to develop because it's always been about you, because you've justified this. Excuse me. And so, yeah, own the central place that you have played in her heart. Apologize genuinely. Again, you wouldn't be facing this, honey, if it wasn't for me. Get away from any of the poor me things. Get anything, any bad tone like impatience or frustration. Oh, roll your eyes, or here we go again. That's all about you. And validate her pain, give her space, ask her what she needs, keep a humble heart. Those are some of the best ways to handle the when a wife is triggered. And the document that I will hopefully by the end of regroup here today, I will make available, and of course to the other groups as well. When you cannot find a wingman, what's another way to keep being accountable? Okay, well, first of all, you can ask your pastor at the church. Listen, I'm looking for a wingman, a person to hold me accountable to. I'm working through my porn addiction or my sexual addiction, however you want to word it, and I would ask him for an idea. There may be an older man that could mentor you. Or you could say, Pastor, could I have you for a half an hour a month to talk to you about how I'm doing in my recovery, and until I find a man that I can meet weekly with. I would do that. And you also may have a 15-minute call with one of the guys in your small group just to report in. And so the breakout group guys, one of them could be an option to do that. But yeah, I think right now it's getting past your fears and getting past the sense of having to be vulnerable. And, I don't really know any guys that I feel comfortable with. Well, most guys haven't gone a long way to be open to a lot of men. And so it's going to be some effort that you need to become accountable, regardless how comfortable you feel. Looking for someone who's well on the recovery journey, say 5 years or more. Lots of progress been made, is a much better place than before, but struggling now what the next step for continued growth is and sustained sobriety. Person teased they're asking for a friend. But in any case, yeah, let me give some ideas. Another question coming, by the way, is what's a healthy exit strategy for regroup? And so keep that in mind, that I'm going to answer that question too, because this person who's been in recovery for 5 years and doing really well, when's their time to leave? Well, the exit strategy would help, but let me speak specifically to this gentleman. I think what's critical is that you get yourself a Larry, that you get somebody in your life that you can meet with regularly with, that will hold you accountable, less about less about recovery, although that can be always in the discussion, but more about becoming a man of God, being in the Word, praying for your family, working through issues with him and you and your wives and kids, and just being in each other's corner, and that guy wants to grow in the Lord and that you want to grow in the Lord. And so that I guess I'm 39 years in accountability. I think it could be close to 40 here going into the new year. And I will never not meet weekly with another person. I will never not do that. I'll always meet with somebody weekly to keep me on track. And so I think it's finding that person. I think it's getting a routine established. And then on the exit strategy, just make sure that you buttoned up everything to finish strongly and regroup. And that you've got a good run going of purity, integrity, and so I think that would be good there. What does abiding in Christ look like? I've been studying this in the Bible in 1 John, and always eager to hear from another's perspective. 1 John was also written by the Apostle John. The Apostle John wrote the book of John, and in John chapter 15, that's where the abiding discussion comes from. And John, actually, when he writes the epistles of 1 John, he's referring back to the 15th chapter of John, which, I'm the vine and you are the branches, and apart from me, you can do nothing. And if you're separated from the vine, so abiding really refers to a daily surrender, a daily leaning in on him, a daily going to him for his sustenance, as it were. And I'll likely, Lord willing, in the spring, actually do a regroup talk on the exact passage that is implied here in abiding, because I am now growing grapes, table grapes. 18 different vines are growing in my orchard, and I'm going to learn about being a gardener, that looks after, I think they're called a vine dresser. So it really talks about a daily surrender, abide in Christ, that our life is hid with Christ in God, as it says in Colossians, and that we are really relying on him. So go back to the 15th chapter of John to get a complete answer there. How important to your recovery is it to know the reason behind why you medicate with porn? Well, first of all, any kind of soul search that looks into the baggage in your life that has caused soul wounds, you may want to listen to the regroup talk on soul wounds, because what happens is we sometimes medicate. That medicate means I go there for release, I go there for relief, I go there to find a happy place, I go there to get away from my painful reality. You may be a little guy whose parents are abusing them, or there's horrendous things going on in your life, a lot of fighting with the parents, a lot of hurting you, and so you go private and you go into this world of fantasy and masturbation, and you get the release, the medication. And so, I mean, it's important for every person to deal with their baggage, let alone whether it's connected to why they medicate with porn. And so how important to recovery is it to know why? Well, do your best to do a soul search. Way back in the 3rd century, Socrates says, an unexamined life isn't worth living. To examine your life, to look closely at it, to see your family of origin, the impact it's had on you is really, really wise, and to try to sort that out. Any advice to those who fail their polygraph, and what to do to overcome that failure? Well, when you take a polygraph, the purpose of it is to establish that you're being truthful. And when you fail a polygraph, you have yet to come to reality of your need to be truthful. So any advice for you? The advice for you is that you need to get honest, because the polygraph will display the fact that you're withholding something, you're hiding something, you're not being truthful. So that's why we need a full disclosure, not a progressive disclosure, which tells over and over again the story of, you did this, but you didn't tell X and Y. You just told A, B, and C. And so that's really hurtful. What to do to overcome it? Well, agree to take another polygraph and then come clean. And just make sure when you come clean and you tell your wife more of the hurt, just make sure that she's got support, because she can't come to you for support. No matter how much you want to support her, you're the one that's causing the pain. And so she might want to push you away. And so just keep in mind that it's really important for you to come clean, be honest, quit with the progressive disclosure, and agree to take another polygraph to verify that you're now no longer hiding, no longer misrepresenting the truth in any way. Okay. When doing the 3 dailies or the love link, and if you don't know what those are, those have to do with a person who's also struggling with intimacy anorexia, the inability to connect emotionally to his or her wife, his wife. His or her partner, I meant to say, because women can be intimacy anorexics as well. So if you're not aware of that, what that really is, then listen to the podcast or the regroup talk about it. I did do a talk about what is intimacy anorexia. But is there ever a time when someone is out of memories or stuff to share while doing it? How can I get the most of doing these dailies with my wife every day? Well, first of all, you may need to plan ahead. Say, pick the feeling you're going to share with today and do some thinking ahead of time and try to remember things. The reason why Dr. Weiss put this feelings together, and some of you, just so you understand, I feel frustrated when this happens. I first remember feeling frustrated, and then you remember something between the age of 6 and 16. An event. Now, it doesn't have to be the very first time, but at least an event I remember feeling frustrated when I was young. The reason why he wants you to remember, you actually did have feelings back then, but they were suppressed, they were pushed down. And so you do your best to share as you can. If you need to think ahead about which feeling you're going to do today, so that it looks like you've done some work and done some thinking, that's a good thing. And so, again, do the best you can, plan ahead, pick a feeling ahead of time, do some thinking. And you may even want to ask the Lord to help you open up your memories, because sometimes we buried a lot of feelings because there was a lot of darkness in our in our young years, or hurts or abandonment or neglect or abuse, whatever. And we don't want to remember. So we buried even some of the good memories with bad ones. Number 8, how can you understand an addict if you've never been one? Well, I don't know if they're asking me that question, because in one sense, I've never been a sex addict or an alcoholic or anything, so I've never been addicted, though I am addicted to other things, like I am addicted to Sports Desk, although I can quit. I'm addicted to Coca-Cola, though I think I can quit, and I have. Every time someone challenges me, I quit for 3 months, and whatever. But again, hopefully those things aren't as damaging as some of the other types of addiction. I think it's, first of all, to answer me, then to answer it for other people. I believe that I'm in this work of helping men because for years and years I've been a straight shooter and not afraid to talk about things that others won't talk about. So 30, 35, 40 years ago, I was talking about how to conquer the lust monster to young men and college students when no one else was talking about these things. I talked about pornography and the dangers of it when it was still in the magazine world. And I warned about it when it was in, DVDs and CDs and VHS tapes, beta tapes. I mean, like, I talked openly about the dangers of this. So I've been helping men with the problem of lust for a long time, because it's really part and parcel of being a man. We have to man up to learn to master this instead of being mastered by it. So I've been talking openly to men about it. So how can I understand an addict when I haven't been one personally? It's because I've worked with a lot of them, and I believe I understand them quite well. Now, if you're talking about how does someone else, how do they understand you? Well, the best thing to do is, if it's your accountability partner and you want to kind of help them understand you, then open up and talk about this is how it is for me. And if nothing else, and you need support, talk to another man who's struggled but has got freedom. He understands the addict lifestyle. And so there we go. Number 9, any advice on how to plan romantic dates, as I'm not that type of guy to do that, and I struggle greatly in that department. I smile because about 15 years ago, I've started a book called Romance for Dummies, the yellow book with the stick figures on front. And I never did get it done, but I just figured there's so many men who have that question. So you're not alone. First of all, one of the greatest things you can do is go to our website and look up Happy Camper Dating, and it tells you how to do creative dates. And then also, if you go to the resources on the Doing Family Right website, underneath resources is a section called Date Night Discussion Starters. There's 14 sets of 10 questions, 140 different questions that you can talk to your wife, your girlfriend on a date. And so use Happy Camper Dating to help you plan them, and then not knowing what to say or what questions to ask, use the Date Night Discussion Starters. And you got to understand that so many people, when they start dating again, they go, we don't know what to do on it. We don't know what to talk about. Well, I wrote them for all of those people. There's scores of you who are not sure what to do on a date. And so Date Night Discussion Starters, and then Happy Camper Dating. How do I determine the difference between love and lust with my wife? Okay. I have an article that's half written, so it'll be one of our talks sometime in the new year. But the difference between having sex and making love. Having sex is more the lust side, and making love is actually more the love side. Let me give you more answers to that question now. Love is you're present with the person. Love, there's a sense of mutuality. Love is you're in the moment. It doesn't mean you can't have a really exhilarating time and having your needs met and you meeting hers, but love is mutuality. Lust is when she's an object. Lust is when I've got to have this, and you're impatient and you're demanding and you're frustrating and you're not caring for her emotional well-being and you're pressuring her, and so be careful that you're not using her just as a receptacle for your sexual addiction, even when you re-engage sexually. that you stay eyes open, focused on her, encouraging her, present with her, meeting her needs, that it can be as mutual as possible. The more it is relational sex, where you're in the moment, you're present, it is you meeting her needs as well as her meeting yours. When it's mutual, that's when it's love, not lust. And it doesn't have anything to do with how much you enjoy the time, unless you're measuring it against what you used to do in addiction. But there can be fabulous enjoyment when a couple makes love in a whole new different way. A gentleman has recently had to deal with some family funerals, and he recently went to a funeral of a family member, and there was a lot of female cousins there who were dressed provocatively, and he knew ahead of time this would likely be an issue, but he felt he had to go to this funeral anyway. So, well, whether it's a funeral or whether it's a mall, whether it's going to a restaurant with waitresses that are questionably dressed, what's the best way to deal with this type of situation? Well, first of all, as the person I believe did, they reached out to others and said, look, I'm going to a situation with the family where there is complications with how some of my cousins will be dressed. And I want to walk wisely. I want to walk respectively. And if you are the older cousin, you can use this scripture out of 2 Timothy 2:22, where it says, treat younger women as sisters with absolute purity. As cousins with absolute purity. That means that you look at their face, that you don't look at their frame, that you talk to them as a person, you ask them questions about them, and you stay focused on their eyes and their face, but you make sure you have some men praying for you to keep the boundaries that you need to, and your eyes in the right place. And and if you need a timeout, and get on the phone and call a friend, hey, listen, I'm struggling, blah blah blah, whatever you need to do. Pray beforehand, be accountable beforehand, pray during, be accountable during. One guy I struggled, helped, he would check in a couple times a day when he was away on business trips where there was compromising people in his world, and so you got to do whatever it takes to do that. Number 12, sexual integrity seems to be a taboo subject between men, especially Christian men. How do you break the ice to broach this subject? And I want to, first of all, great question, but it starts with men being honest. You won't get anybody in the church talking about it until we get some brave men who start opening up about it. And that's why I wasn't afraid as a pastor to talk about the challenges of dealing with lust. And if you got some struggles in this area, reach out. We want to be here to help you. And the only way to break the ice is to break the ice. And it's by breaking the silence. Is, someone tell the story. Why is Chris leading a group in his church? Why is Brian going to lead a group in his church? Connected with DFR, yes, but it's going to be hosted at the church. Why? Because they both spoke publicly at a men's event about their story. It went public, and now men are wanting to get help, believing that they're not the only one now, because somebody finally said, I'm struggling with this. Let me tell you what I've done to start changing things, and men get hope. So the only way to break the ice and broach the subject is to break the silence and to open up about it. Good job. How could you do something like this? What were you thinking? How do you answer that wisely when your spouse, I can put it into words of deceptive sin and shame and how I was selfish, and just try to be honest. But I feel like I'm missing some of the vocabulary and understanding. I feel like pride, fear, and me wanting to be my own God at the core of my sin. I'm not quite sure how to fully put it into words. Well, you did a pretty good job here, but let me say honestly, you can try your best. When she asked the question, why would you do something like this? How could you do something like this? What were you thinking? The answer really comes down to, well, I wasn't thinking about you. I was just completely selfish. I thought I could get away with it. I justified in my mind that it wasn't really hurting you, not really looking at it from your perspective. I somehow thought that I wasn't being unfaithful. It was self-delusion. I was lying to myself. I was lying to you. I was so wrong and so unaligned. And so yeah, I was too proud to admit that I was struggling. I was a fear of your rejection. I was basically a coward, and I let the addiction continue to control me and ruin us, ruin our closeness, and hurt you. And I'm really sorry. There's no excuse for it, and no real good answer. The only bottom line answer is I was selfish. I was thinking about myself. So something like that. How should a mature brother in Christ lead or guide young brothers in Christ towards sexual purity? How should a brother gently rebuke or challenge brothers in Christ who are constantly making crude sexual immoral jokes and insinuations? Should a dating couple kiss before marriage? Okay, so 3 different questions. First of all, the best thing to do for a mature brother to lead anyone else is to make sure he's got his act together and growing and being faithful and having his system of accountability and everything going. Don't try to speak from a platform of I'm 3 weeks clean. I want to tell you guys what you need to do. No, just put some time behind it. And when you get into the area of wanting to, how do you want to rebuke? Obviously, it's gently. You said that, but I'm suggesting that the best way to confront someone is, first of all, the closer you are to someone, the easier it's going to be. If it's someone who you don't really know, then yeah, then you do it through asking questions. And never upstage a guy. Like if a guy says a crude joke publicly, I can't believe you're saying that as a Christian. Why would you talk dirty like that? No, 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 no. You do it privately, and you do it gently, and you do it in humility, and just if something like this. I overheard your joke the other day, and I sat on it for a day, but I want your best, and I'm concerned that those kind of jokes are inappropriate for us as growing men in Christ. And I'm not trying to be a prude. I'm not trying to cut you down. I'm based on Ephesians 5:3, where it says not even a hint of sexual morality or crude jokes, coarse joking. The context is pretty clear, and just ask, is it anything I can do to support you in this? I think it'd be wiser if you worked towards getting that kind of crude joking out of your vocabulary and just seek the Lord on it. Yeah, so you hear it in my tone, completely different. Should a couple dating kiss before they're married? Yeah. So I think first of all, yes. But I often tease that it needs to be a kiss that's not leading anywhere. If I start turning on switches that are sexual in nature, then I need to curtail the kissing. And it's an okay way to show expression. But for guys that struggle with addiction, I would say that should be kept to a goodnight kiss at the door. Because if you're standing, you're not going to get in as much trouble. If you're sitting or laying, watching a movie and you don't remember what the movie was anymore because you were making out. And making out means doing everything but being sexual. And that's, of course, turning on all kinds of switches that you can't righteously fulfill as a single man. So put some specific boundaries to the nature of your affection and the limits to it, and that would be a good way to go. Over the last year, I've worked really hard to push down the sexual desires. Interesting, this is opposite because as a married man who worked really hard to push down his sexual desires to the point where his sex drive is so much lower than before. Now I can almost take it or leave it. is this type of libido change normal after going through a program like this? Okay, well, first of all, we're trying to reset in regroup. We're trying to reset your sexuality to move from object sex, where the woman is an object of your desires, to relational sex, where it's more about us together and her and meeting her needs and us. Relational, it's a relationship, relational sex. And so, you know, when for so long your addiction has been driven by you know, on-demand sex, which is look at porn, masturbate, or, you know, fantasizing and masturbating or whatever, but having your needs met instantly, it's all been about you. And so you need to have this reset where you start to learn healthy relational sex. And this is where a couple needs to work towards a sexual agreement. And what are sexual boundaries as far as, you know, what does relational sex look like? And even Dr. Weiss talks about that if you're going to get away from unhealthy sex that is objectified, it has to have lights on, eyes open, nurturing conversation, gratitude during and gratitude afterwards, and especially eyes open looking at your spouse at the climax, so you can actually be fixing, what's the word, the neurological pathway. You actually are creating a bond through your looking at your wife in the face. And so, but I would say, I know who this gentleman is. I'd say I would talk to your wife about it and just say, you might have noticed this. I'm trying to find my way past an addictive type of sex to a healthy sex with you. So we're going to have to talk about this. And I would actually tell her that, you know, that my sex drive has gone down and I'm trying to reboot it in a healthy way with you alone. And she'd like to be willing to work with you on that. But that reset might be good to talk about with your counselor and your spouse together. What has been the biggest thing that you've learned over the years of working with doing family right and marriage issues? Well, the non-negotiable is there's 3 in the marriage, not 2. Jesus has to be part of the relationship all the way through. And so yeah, I guess I can't, you know, I give this verse out to more than any other verse in scripture. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him or surrender to him or put him first, and he will lead you in the path that is right. I love it. In the Living Bible, it says this: if you want favor with God and man and a reputation for good judgment and common sense, then trust the Lord completely. Don't ever trust yourself. In everything you do, put God first, and he will direct you and crown your efforts with success. The biggest, most important thing I've learned over the years of helping couples, there's 3 in the marriage, not 2. Put Jesus first. Matter of fact, if you see it here as a husband and a wife and God up here, the closer you get to God, the closer you get to each other. What's the biggest misconception or things that addicts get wrong? The biggest misconception? I think likely it's how much you've lied to yourself. I think that's likely it. I mean, I got a close second maybe, but I think that how much a man has lied to himself and justified this and saying he's not hurting anybody and you know, explaining away he's lied to everybody, but he's also lied to himself a lot. And I think that most addicts are addicted to lying as much as they are to the addiction. And so the biggest misconception or misunderstanding that they get wrong is how much they've lied to themselves. The second is pretty close to it. At the heart of an addiction is selfishness. And at the heart of selfishness is immaturity, because it's all about me. You haven't learned to be an other-centered person. You haven't learned to empathize yet. And so the other thing that many addicts get wrong is how emotionally immature they are, because they whine, it's so hard, they poor me, this, how come she shouldn't be like this, why is this? That's why we have the handout called emotional adolescence. So lying to yourself and not realizing how immature you are because your selfishness has caused you to lie and it's caused you to be immature. The church is likely filled with addicts that are hidden and nobody knows. DFR is only so big. What should a church do to be tackling these issues? Well, like Chris and soon Brian, they've agreed to work with their church to lead a men's group, another DFR group, which means they will have my teaching and then they'll break up on their own. They may be on the call and listening to the teaching part, but they'll be in their own groups in person at the church, maybe even online through the church. I don't know, but again, break the silence, make yourself available. And yeah, DFR is only so big. But hopefully, whether it's the teaching that I provide or whether it's a video series that you do, start something in your church and break the silence. Living in the past versus focusing on the future is harder said than done, especially when you're working recovery requires a lot of reflection of looking at your past and everything. What are some of the more effective recovery tactics that help you keep focused on the future while allowing the past life to be dealt with as a learning experience? A really good question. First of all, do the work in the area of the reasons why you want to come clean and write down your 12 to 15 reasons why you want to come clean. Read them every day for a month and read them once a week after that, so that the reasons why you want to come clean are clear. At some point, working with the pain in your past, your baggage of your past, your family of origin issues, what was the soul wounds is really important. But once you work through the soul wounds, you don't have to keep going back to working on the soul wounds. You can move ahead because you've dealt with them. But what you want for the future, what's your future vision, your target, what you want to see? You want to keep your wife and family together or whatever. Be future focused in the sense that you are moving in a direction of freedom and recovery, but be past aware so that you can have dealt with the things and let's just say there's some things that have hooked onto you. It's like dragging a weight and you've got to cut that free and deal with it. So you do need to deal with the past because it is slowing you down. And so I think that's how I would balance it. Number 20, I've hardly ever argued with my wife, generally avoided conflict. This intimacy avoidance has also caused more harm than good. What are some of the tips to healthy arguing? And I do believe I deserve to be heard and express my opinion, but I don't know how. So 2 parts there. Rules of engagement is a tool I take people through, how to resolve conflict in a healthy way. And remember, conflict aversion, if you avoid conflict, you avoid the relationship and thus each other. And so you do need to work through conflict, but it needs to be in a healthy way. And if you've been the one who's been kind of intimacy avoidance and haven't been good at sharing, and your wife is more verbal and is good at sharing, you're going to have to say, can we talk this through? I'm going to try to open up more, express how I feel, and even how we work through conflict. Sometimes I don't feel you're hearing me, and so then I shut up. And so yeah, I think that would be a good place to start. Again, you may want to have that specific discussion with a counselor, a third-party person that can say what he needs to say or she needs to say to your wife, and versus what the counselor needs to say to you on how to find this balance. But it's better to push through and open up about how you're feeling and share how you're feeling, but you do it in a respectful, positive way. You do it responsibly. Healthy arguing, if I can use that, having a fair fight, is you Do not speak disrespectfully. If you're starting to get amped up, then you take a time out so you stay calm, and your goal is to be closer to your spouse afterwards, not to show her a thing or two and then walk away because you got your point in. No, that's all selfishness again. So there's some ideas. It seems there are medical solutions to depression and anxiety. Yeah, for some people, it's very helpful. I feel I have a warped view of brain health, and I question if my brain could use some medicine. Yeah, I would have to know what you mean by a warped view of brain health. So I'm a little bit stuck there. What are some clear signs or signals that I should be consulting with a medical physician? Well, it would be really good, if nothing else, to have an appointment with your doctor and actually ask him to ask the questions pertaining to, say, depression, and consult with him about how you're feeling. And he'll ask perceptive questions. I have the 9 questions that are standard questions about how do you tell if a person's depressed or not. And so sometimes medication is needed to stabilize you so you can do some better thinking and better work. Yeah, without knowing more, a warped view of brain health, I don't know what that means. So how do you stay motivated in doing recovery work to get it done and not drift away from it? You can put some consequences on it. You lose things if you don't finish it. You can review the reasons why. And, growing in your life spiritually and growing in your life in maturity when it comes to integrity and purity is not a checkbox 3-month, everything's fixed thing. It's an 18-month, 2-year character transformation, and it takes some time. And just make a commitment. When I answer the question about a healthy exit to regroup, let that be the one that guides you with regard to when I'm going to be, done, and push to get your recovery work done and resolve issues so that you and your spouse are in a better place. Stay motivated by your reasons. Stay motivated by being accountable. Stay motivated to the targets you want to hit so that you can be free. What are your thoughts regarding parameters of healthy masturbation among single guys? Well, the problem when a person has been porn addicted and objectifying women for a long time, the reason why we've taken masturbation off the table for men in recovery is because it's so connected to your addiction. So that caveat kind of leaves the question kind of complicated. You see, if you are looking at porn or you are fantasizing of other people, then you're looking after a woman to lust after her. That means you've committed adultery of the heart, as it says in, Matthew 5:27 and 28. And so if a young man is free from looking at porn and acting out in any other inappropriate way, and is is honestly before God, walking with integrity and purity and other things, some version of a clinical masturbation, where once a month to release. But see, the body takes care of it in nocturnal emission, which means an automatic release of extra semen that's done while you're sleeping, and it's not done through any kind of hand stimulation or whatever. It just happens. And so you don't need to masturbate. That's the truth. But the danger is so many single guys who will hear this, part of their addiction is, well, I got to have this. And now that Currie said some version of clinical masturbation once a month, I can't look forward to that day once a month. See, that's bogus. I'm concerned. It's a hard question. Yeah, stay away from visual stuff, stay away from the fantasizing stuff. And yeah, Another good question, 24. We know that the opposite of addiction is connection. What if connection brings a source of anxiety for some? First of all, social anxiety is an issue for some, and I would just say, just commit to have a small group of people that you grow to trust yourself to, and you have to find safety somewhere. And so your breakout group might be the place where you go to. Okay, so I got 4 or 5 guys I'm going to be honest with, and just say, look, if I don't say much of the group, it's because I do have a lot of fears and just connecting to people socially, and have a lot of insecurities. And can you be patient with me? And even saying that they'll be more patient. But they also might call you out and say, hey, friend, what do you think about this? And for you just to share honestly, but you got to find a safe place with 3 or 4 men that you got to work this through, because that would be healthy for you. How do we overcome apathy when things are going well? Well, again, get your target about what you need to do to work through recovery and freedom, integrity and purity, and let that be your target. Things aren't going well until you're done. Okay, and the exit strategy for regroup will be one of the things that you can focus on. And so, how do you overcome apathy? Stay accountable. Let people call you to greatness. Set your targets of what you want to do, finish the program. And the evidence of finishing the program is that I'm really not acting out besides doing the 12 steps. No, just, well, I did the 12 steps and it hasn't helped. No, you haven't done the 12 step well if it hasn't helped. The next question is actually the process of leaving regroup. And I'm going to talk about the exit strategy for leaving regroup. So I've said this in the document, and I will make this document available in the chat if nothing else. But in pursuit of freedom, DFR regroups are designed for the following expectations. And this is all under the thing, a healthy readiness to stop attending regroup, and to overcome the addiction takes from anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So consistent attendance for a minimum of a year, regular and intentional interaction and sharing with the group. So you need to be opening up. Completion of the 12-step program and actually working through a second time to make sure you've done it well. Completion of the the Final Freedom book, which is the one you read. Completion of the 101 exercises, which are associated with the 12-step program in the material we're using. That you fully understand your addiction, your triggers, and your recovery strategies. That you've had personal counseling to work through any issues behind or what's going on to cause you your addiction. That's the soul wounds, the past issues. That you be completely free of acting out, all clear for a full year, 365 days, that you've restored your marital relationship, if you still have the opportunity, in a God-honoring way, and that you walk deeply, consistently with the Lord in community and private devotion. And so when is it time to leave? Well, you've done those things, and you've met that criterion, then you have ongoing accountability past regroup with somebody else moving forward. You know your triggers, and you set up wise boundaries, so your game plan. You do have a recovery game plan for stability beyond the group. You've got a strong, growing relationship with the Lord, and He's your daily anchor. Your marriage is a good place, and your wife, your counselor, and your pastor or accountability partners agree it's okay for you to finish. And you've been clean for a full year. And so there's the goal. That's the process. We just got a few questions left. How does an addict continue to find hope and healing when they're experiencing despair in their recovery journey? Well, first of all, admit you're struggling. Talk to other men. We're all not going to be at a difficult place at the same time. So, when one guy's struggling, leave no man behind is, come on, keep going, so you need to reach out to others if you're struggling. And remember the target. The target is you want integrity and purity. Don't just make it, I want to keep my wife. I make it bigger than that. Make it, I want to honor the Lord with my life. I want to get to this better place, and have your reasons really clear and virtually memorized why you want to do this. And so continue to lean into the Lord, and take your despair to him. That would be a really good thing to do. How does an addict know that they are fully healed, especially sexually, from their past addiction? Well, fully healed, implied by the proper exit strategy, but also healed sexually, is that you're actually able to enter into a relationship with a woman, your wife in particular, if you're a single guy, that you can move forward, not objectifying her, but actually it's being something mutual, and you can respect boundaries if you're not married and don't get involved sexually. But when you are married and fully healed, especially sexually, it is actually relational sex. It's mutual, it's other-centered, and you're present. What to do when I'm conflicted between what I want to do, act out, and what I shouldn't do. What's the best way to deal with the want to act out? Well, that's the nature of addiction. And this is where I have a document called 5 Alarm Fires, and what to do basically when you're really highly tempted to act out. And so whoever asked this question may want to ask me specifically for that. I will put it in the group too, but just make sure that you get that. But remember, the want is a biological derivative and a psychological derivative, because you've got so used to having your needs met in this way that it becomes a dependency mentally, and it also becomes a biological dependency. And you got to put it against what you're going to lose. What are you going to lose? If I continue to act out, I know I shouldn't do this, but I just want to do this. Okay, at what price? At what price? You know how many guys have wept over the fact that they lost their wife and family because they went with the want? Because remember, you're lying to yourself that you can get away with it and it's not going to hurt anybody, and you're emotionally immature. That's the heart of an addicted person. And so reach out, get the help, keep growing. You still got some more work to do in your recovery until the want starts to fade. How do I get past the fear of failing in the midst of an all clear run? Well, the only way to do that is to continue to do the things that keep you going. Do the things that keep you going. And so all I can say is I need you to keep doing the things that got you where you're at. You got a great run going here, and don't let yourself get complacent. Complacent means I got this. I'm okay. I'm fine. No, you can't. Why am I still meeting weekly with? I'll meet tomorrow morning with Larry. Why am I still weekly meeting in accountability? Why? Because I want to stay on track. And you've got to find a fight in you to stay on track. Even if you got a good all clear doesn't, that's great, but you could be white knuckling it, just hanging on for dear life, and you got the all clear going, but you haven't worked the recovery yet. And the final question is, how do I find motivation, continue to walk in purity? My wife has told me that it's over and there's little hope of reconciliation. And how do I deal with the resulting hopeless outlook of a healthy sexual outlet because of that? Okay, that's a full question, but I'll do my best to finish our discussion with this here. So how do you continue to walk in purity? My wife has said it's over. Well, first of all, you've lost your wife, but you cannot be doing this only to try to keep your wife. You have to be facing recovery and dealing with your sexual addiction because you want integrity and purity before the Lord. And if you are still stuck on, well, I'm doing it to try to keep my wife, then your target is wrong. And so yeah, and if you're married and you have children, you want to become a man of integrity so that you can continue to be a man who's growing in maturity as a father. You may lose your marriage, but you're still a father. You still have kids to influence. And they might be aware that the reason mom and you split up is because of the problems you have in this area. And so all the more reason for you to want to show yourself a man of integrity and show yourself as a man of resolve. And your motivation is bigger than just your wife. It needs to be, I want to honor the Lord with my life. I want the personal freedom myself of not being beat up by this addiction. And I want to keep the respect of my family and my children beyond my wife, even though our marriage is over. And the healthy sexual outlet, if your marriage is over and you ever think about having another woman in your life down the road, getting married again, you don't want to be giving the next wife the same hell that you gave this one because you haven't dealt with your addiction. So someday you need to deal with your addictions so that you can be a man who's integrity and honest with your wife and walking faithful to her and not stuck in your addiction. Even though it's not this wife, it could be another one in the future. Don't bring the addiction into another marriage. How crazy would that be? Oh, by the way, that does happen. Guys lose their marriage and then they go to crap because they lost their marriage and they all go despair. And then they're a mess and they start to date somebody else. And now they're going, oh crap, what do I do now? Because my addiction's been beating me up here for these 2 years that I haven't been with somebody. Well, because you did it for the wrong reasons. And now you're going to jeopardize the next relationship. So do it to honor the Lord, do it to have the respect of your family, especially your children, and then to do it to be in a better place if God ever allows you to be married to someone else so that you don't bring that baggage into a new relationship. Now, gentlemen, you cannot understand how unbelievably impressed I was with your questions. I was hoping to aim at 7:30 to be done, and it's 7:35, so not bad, old man Currie, getting all those questions in. That was the longest questions I've ever had ahead of time. And listen, I know guys have been firing questions in the chat. I can't go there because of time, because I need to be done at 7:30 so we can do a good check-in. But I'm proud of you guys. Have a fabulous Christmas. Have a fabulous Christmas. Keep on the Lord with your life and believe that 2023 has wonderful, 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 wonderful weeks, months, and years ahead. God bless you guys. We're going to just shut this thing down.